8 days until the so-called Supercommittee is to report. They're limping toward failure, although perhaps now they've found the way Washington always loves to do things. Let's kick the can down the road. Let's pretend we did it. Let's say we'll adopt some future tax measures in the next 12 months that will get us to their rather modest goal of $1.2 trillion of deficit reduction over 10 years. I tell you what, the do-nothing option is starting to look a lot better. Now, that's something the Congress is really good at doing. Nothing. So, what happens if we do nothing? Well, first you get the sequestration. There's much gnashing of teeth about that. But Congress will have discretion within accounts, within the Defense Department, and elsewhere to find those cuts, which would be relatively modest over a 10-year period. But then the better thing with the do-nothing option is that if Congress really can do nothing and continue to do nothing for the rest of this session, then all the Bush tax cuts go away. And that means $4 trillion of additional revenues with a little bit of shared sacrifice. It hits the people at the top mostly, takes them back to the Clinton-era rates of taxes. That's without closing tax loopholes and going through all that. Just let the Bush tax cuts expire. That would take care of 40% of the deficit problem over the next 10 years. Add in the sequestration from the failure of the committee, another 1.2, plus the 1.3 we passed last summer, suddenly up to about 70% of the projected deficit. That's pretty much what we need to do around here. And you can do it in an honest way, which is with revenues and spending reductions. That's how we balanced the budget in the 90s. You can't do it all with just spending cuts. Stop pretending that that'll work. It won't work. Now, there'll be much gnashing of teeth, particularly on Wall Street, about, oh, Congress just can't get things done, and we're worried. And the crooks are the unindicted co-conspirators at the ratings agencies, the same people who rated designed-to-fail mortgage collateralized debt obligations as AAA+ investments, are now concerned about the government of the United States and how it conducts itself and its honesty in dealing with these difficult problems. Well, maybe they should take a look at the do-nothing option, too. If they're really concerned about debt reduction, the do-nothing option's the best. And then finally, this week, Congress will have a chance to vote on a balanced budget amendment, the same one that passed in 95. Let's think of what the world would look like today if the one that passed the House in 95 had become the law of the land. We wouldn't have had 10 years of Bush tax cuts at a cost of $5 trillion of new debt and no jobs. We wouldn't have had the wars fought on the credit card. We'd have had to vote every year because we didn't declare war. And under this balanced budget amendment, if you don't declare war and you have an overseas emergency, you have to vote every year on the spending. Maybe we wouldn't have spent those many hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars. And finally, the prescription drug benefit designed to subsidize the pharmaceutical industry with borrowed money and give seniors a donut hole. We wouldn't have had that either. Now, I have liberal friends over here who say, oh, we can't have balanced budget amendment, that'd be horrible. Well, just think, if those things hadn't happened and we didn't have $14 trillion of debt today, wouldn't we be in a place to make the investments we need to put America back to work and not burdening our kids with a mountain of debt? Think about it. Balanced budget amendment works both ways. This one's honest. It doesn't say supermajority for taxes. It doesn't say supermajority for cuts. It says, you figure it out. You were elected. You figure it out. And do it in a way that both builds a country with a sustainable economy and gives us a financial future that isn't a huge burden to our kids.
Gentleman yields back the balance of his time. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Paulson, for 5 minutes.